welcome you all to the Hungry EcoCities webinar, and let me shortly introduce our today's speakers. My name is Magdalena, and alongside with my colleagues from Funding Box, Anka, Project Manager, and Agnieszka, Project Lead, we would like to welcome you all. And today we also have two representatives of In4Art, Leah, a creative director and business director from In4Art, Rodolfo, and today also we have Monica from Carlo Ratti Associati. So without further ado, welcome everyone, enjoy the session, and speakers, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Magdalena. Very warm welcome also from my side. I'm gonna talk you through the webinar of today. It's our second webinar. Today we will dive into the Paths to Progress experiments, which is the support program we are offering as Hungry EcoCities to you as interested artist designers for this call. Then we will go into some more practicalities about the open call, the selection application through Funding Box, creating the HEPLAC card, the timeline evaluations, and in the end there will be time for questions. If in the meantime you already have questions, feel free to type them in the chat and we can address them there. We already had a previous webinar on July 11th, which is also recorded and available, where we go much more in depth into the specific application process. So please have a look at that. If you have questions concerning that, you can always refer to the first webinar. And today we're going to focus much more on the Paths to Progress experiments and what it means. But first, let me shortly welcome you to Hungry EcoCities, because Hungry EcoCities is a multidisciplinary collaboration consisting of a consortium of 8 different partners. These partners, they come from academia research, they come from creative studios, they come from an industry network, and they are also scattered throughout Europe. And as participant in Hungry EcoCities, you will collaborate with different of these partners of Hungry EcoCities in your team. Having said that, what is Hungry EcoCities? It's a program where we are asking you to work with us towards a more responsible and sustainable food agricultural system. We do that together with real SMEs. We have selected them as part of the first phase of this open call. We have selected 10 different SMEs, and these SMEs are located in different parts of Europe, which you can see in this graph. So we have SMEs in the Netherlands, we have them in Spain, we have them in Italy, we have them in Greece, and we have them in Bulgaria. And we want to invite you also to start looking into those specific SMEs as a challenge. Rodolfo will start introducing them to you because they will be important for you as collaborating partners within this Hungry EcoCities program, which we're calling the Paths to Progress experiments, where we're going to support 10 different projects. Rodolfo, may I ask you to start giving us some more insight on this interesting opportunity to test with real locations and to collaborate with real SMEs, and talk us a bit through what type of SMEs we have to expect.
Of course. Thank you, Leah. Good morning, everybody. Hello, my name is Rodolfo, and I am part of the Hungry EcoCities management team with some of our partners, and also part of In4Art. The webinar and the call that you're considering applying for, thank you for that, we hope you do, is very much focused on working closely with one SME in the food chain in Europe. And we have 10 selected. I'm going to introduce all 10 because all 10 of them have a challenge or challenge direction. And later on in the process, if you decide to apply, but you will hear more about that later, there follows a matchmaking, ultimately leading to the best fit for you with the best SME from our portfolio. So now I will take you through one by one very briefly on what they are and what their scope is. So the first one in general order is a vertical farming technology company from the Netherlands. The Netherlands is for quite a long time known for having quite a technological approach to farming, a lot of indoor farming, a lot of use of technologies, sensoring technologies, robotics, etc. And this company fits very well in that schema. They have a lot of engineering and technical capability, and they have developed their own vertical farming approach and concept. It involves themes like air circulation for vegetable and fruit bearing crops. But how does the world get convinced, or how does the world know what the benefits or the needs is for such a system? And where in the world can we best use these kind of systems, under what conditions? So in this project, you as an artist still have a lot of flexibility to also co-decide what direction it takes, but it will be in that order of in that area. Second one. Then a completely different part of the value chain, tasting and the experience of tasting. Before a product goes to market, it's super important for many food producers to know how consumers, how people perceive their product. And the interesting thing about food is that it's the only material, it's the only thing that requires you to use all 5 of your senses to co-decide whether you like it or not. They are quite advanced in this, in sensory analysis, integrating AI with physical tasting experiments, and doing that in Spain. Then in Greece, there is a company that is much more preoccupied about what happens with the leftovers on the field after the original harvest, the agricultural byproducts. And this company specifically focuses on the wheat byproducts. After the harvest of the wheat, the stems are left behind on the field. It's actually the biggest agricultural byproduct waste stream there exists because of the enormous amount of wheat we produce in Europe. And they are developing technology, methods, and also products to repurpose those wheat stems, amongst others as drinking straws, but also in other ways. Go to the next one. Well, we just saw a few examples of SMEs that are much more towards the end of the farming, or even the whole process of eating and consumption. But we also have an SME that's all the way at the beginning, the process of seed breeding of vegetable seeds. This is a company that is specialized in breeding technologies, breeding organized process. So in a project with them, for instance, we follow the seed through the chain, but we also are critical in the sense that what they do requires a lot of energy, it produces a lot of waste, and it produces a lot of misses. And is that really the way to go forward? Then there's a beehive technology company in the group. They are very much preoccupied with the presence of bees, either natural around or cultivated and actually added to certain fields, and the impact that climate change has on the colony health. And they believe that by using technology around the beehive, but also even possibly inside the beehive, knowing much more through analysis and data what happens within the beehive and around it, we can become better protectors of bees in our food system. Then there is a company from Spain that has been developing cultivation systems for microgreens for around a decade now. They are still they're still a small company, but they do 2 things. They have their own small vertical farm in Spain, but they've also become so familiar with how you create small-scale in-city cultivation systems that they share their knowledge. And in different countries, new entrepreneurs and also communities are using their system to cultivate microgreens in their own environments. A completely other part is, of course, the future of protein and the role of protein and where protein comes from in our diet. One of these options is looking at insects as a source of protein. And in Spain, we have an insect protein provider and processor company that actually does three things. They grow, or they cultivate the insects that then later as larvae are actually transported to local farmers in the regions where they are active. And farmers who are previously were dairy farmers or other types of crop farmers, they are asked to also become insect farmers, grow the insects that later go back to their company to be processed and integrated into the food supply for both animals and human consumption. Well, you can imagine probably you also have an opinion, a direct opinion about this and whether this should be part of our future food system or not. Their conviction is it should, and we find it quite interesting as an option to consider. So they're also an option to work with. Then in Bulgaria, there's a very young technological company that believes that growing sprouts, so basically the same as microgreens or very young vegetables, in a few days, they get sprouted and they can become harvested and enter our diets. That this is something that is perfectly possible to fully automate, not only in terms of controlling the climate, but also the whole process and the complete steering and management of this process. So their dream is to have a nearly fully automated micro batching units that can end up going into cities around the world. And they are quite close to realizing this future, technologically at least. And that's also an option to be working with. Then the food system is extremely diverse. So you will see, and you've seen now that it's some of them really believe in the power of technology, either hardware or software. Some of them really believe in the need for alternatives or better understanding what we need. But we also come from a food system that has a lot of legacy, and not all of that legacy is supposed to just go away. So we also have a more traditional food processor, a Parma ham processor with a very, very long history as a company, but mostly so even as a type of food products. And they believe they can adapt and they can become part of a food system that is much more ethical and sustainable than it is today. And they also believe that by using the knowledge that they have obtained from 2,000 years of cultivating drying Parma ham, that they actually can use that to be important in that future, not just for themselves, but also for the way we perceive meat. So I can imagine that some of you may find it a challenge that you are not so interested in, but believe me, it is extremely interesting to also look at how we can learn from history for a more ethical meat processing food future. So that's another flavor in our box. And the last one is a regenerative organic grower, a large orchard, also in Italy, that is very much interested in the ideas of agroforestry, using the land, using the soils to basically cultivate a variety of mostly fruits, but can also be other types of crops on their farm in the south of Italy. And doing that in a way that is resilient for the future, because this farm exists now for 60 years. And for the last 55, they knew exactly what to expect from the climate year in, year out, with very little variations. But that has completely been turned upside down in recent years. And it is needed that they adapt, that their crops adapt, but that they also adapt and become much more flexible and agile as to what they grow, how they grow, and how they monitor their growing, becoming climate resilient. So this is a short introduction of the 10 SMEs that we have. These are all real companies, real entrepreneurs, often with long histories, and they hope that they have an inspiring role to play now and in the future of our food system transition. And we are very excited that they chose us and that they are willing to work also with you with artists and with us on this journey. And we hope there are at least a few of these that also seem inspiring to you and that you feel interested in to be collaborating with. Now, I think you will hear much more about how that coming together will happen from my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodolfo. So now we picture to you what type of collaboration and what type of SMEs there will be part of this Paths to Progress experiments. We'll go a bit later into what that means for the matchmaking and also when you're applying what to take into account at this stage and in the next stage, because we have a two-phased application process, and Anka will also tell a little bit more about that. But on the one hand, we're going to collaborate with the SMEs in the real life setting. On the other hand, we're going to collaborate with the studios. And one of the lead studios in this is Carlo Ratti Associati, and Monica is here to tell you a bit more about that.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thank you, Leah and Rodolfo, for previous slides. As you noticed from the group of consortium, there is 3 creative studios involved in this collaboration. Each of them will be following one or more SMEs, one or more artists. If you go to the next slide, and one of the reasons why we like to do that is that we really believe, I think, in everyone in the consortium, that it's the first solution might not be, or first idea might not be the solution. What we would like to go for with this residency is to really point to the learning by doing. So having different disciplines coming together, looking at ideas from different points of view. So SMEs, of course, from the practical point of view or the business point of view. Creative studios will be helping, mentoring, collaborating with all of us as from our experience point of view. And of course, we have also universities involved. We have also different tool sets already collected in the previous residency. This is just a slide to say that we don't necessarily believe that there is a linear process, but a process that kind of grows and reduces. There is multiple options to be developed. And what we would like to get from the artist, of course, is solutions, not just one, but more than that. I think we're looking for people who are open-minded to collaborate with such a multidisciplinary team. If you go to the next slide, please. And one of the reasons for that we as a studio really believe that we can work alone, but in nowadays world, the most innovative and most interesting ideas often happen from weak ties. I don't know if any of you is aware of the Stanford professor's idea, but basically saying if you put to a room or into a contact very different people, new ideas will come out. And that is one of the reasons the residency or this consortium is really set up as a multidisciplinary. And what we would like to also kind of keep doing throughout the residency is to have these informal encounters and not to have only online calls where someone artist or the SME presents and the other one approves, but more like that, we really want to be collaborative. If you go to the next slide, please. So I mentioned I am from the Studio Carlo Ratti Associati. We are an international studio. Our main headquarters is in Turin, Italy. And one of the ways we always say that we are maybe kind of different from a typical studios is the way that we work. We don't work, of course, we all have tables and chairs in the offices, but the way that we work are also from different spaces. These are some of the photos of our let's say, studio spaces, what would be also available throughout the residency for all the artists to use. You can see that I intentionally left out a typical office space, and rather than that included our garden, open meeting rooms, but also in the lower part, our factory. As not a typical thing again for the architectural studio to have their own prototyping space, but we are part of a larger network where we also develop our own startups. And to develop our own startups, of course, we need to also produce things. We have in-house in factory with certain tools, such as laser cutting, metal cutting, 3D printing, etc., which, of course, when one needed for the artist, is available also to be used throughout the residency. I'm, of course, speaking from our studio's point of view, but I can assure that the other two studios, as a mindset, are very, very similar. Of course, their infrastructure is slightly different, but I think when we will be collaborating in the future, you will see that actually everything is available, not only from the studio's point of view, but also from the universities. They have also their spaces. So leave it to that, saying that it's not a typical university or office residency. It's really about thinking together how to innovate and how to make the future food systems a little bit more integrated into the SMEs.
Thank you, Monica. So with that, you got an insight in also what kind of support is coming from the Hungry EcoCities consortium and how we can support also the collaboration between you and the SME with us as a party within that. And now we want to turn into the part like what type of artist we are searching for, because we can imagine that this type of challenges where we want to collaborate, where we also ask you to come in already with a certain prototype, a certain proof of concepts and work you've been working on and you would like to test further or give the possibility to go another path with that, but based on that, create something that is applicable or interesting to develop artistically, but also as part of the challenge of the SME. So that means that the artist we are working for, it could be an artist or a more designer type of artist, that you already have some work going on. It can be that it's going on at the moment or that you've been doing it in the past and it's somewhere on the shelf, but you would like to reenact it and further work on it. What we ask, like with the stage of it, it has to be more than a draft on paper. It should not be just an idea on paper, but there should be some tangible, physical or software proof of that you have been working on this theme. And that there are some first outcomes related to that. You can have a look at the Hack Lab later on to see like what type of outcomes we have generated with other artists as part of the first open call of Hungry EcoCities. So you can see they went, most of them, to what we call the technology readiness level 4 or 5, and you can see what type of prototypes that come out of that. So you can test something, but of course there are a lot of improvements and possibilities in that. Within this project, the prototype you are, or the project you want to apply with or further develop, it could have a digital component, or at least it should have the possibility to add a digital component to it if it's not there. And they should have the potential to be tested with an SME. So that is what we are expecting around you as an artist related to what you already have as background and how also the application process is structured. Then if you look at what type of artists are we looking for? Well, we're looking at those that are really interested in collaboration, as Monica already said, with the SMEs, with our hack partners, with the visions the studios have, and that are interested in this mission we have for a sustainable and more responsible food system. So these three elements, if they resonate with you, we're very curious to meet you, to get to know your work, and hope that you will apply to this open call. And to proceed with that, there are a few practicalities, and one of them, which is very important, is the eligibility criteria of the type of artist we search for, because unfortunately we cannot accept everyone, and Anka is going to tell us a bit how we can navigate through that space.
Good morning from me as well, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Yes, as Leah said, we are interested in finding the very best fit for the SMEs that we have already selected and Rodolfo presented earlier. And there are some conditions because we do deal with public money and public funds. So there is a series of conditions, eligibility criteria, we call them, that we are looking for in the applicants for this call. So when it comes to the artists, first of all, we are receiving applications. We are admitting applications from individual artists. They can be either a person or an entity registered under the NICE code 9003 artistic creation. This is the one recognized at the European level. However, you would find a correspondent in your country of origin. It can be a self-employed individual, a freelancer in artistic activities, and you have some of those detailed here, like creative technologies, artists, front and back end designers, digital artists, and so on. It is very important that you are very well aware of your status as an applicant, and that you have this criterion into consideration when you start applying for the open call. In the next slide, you can see that the other very important eligibility criterion refers to the fact that the applicant, the individual artist, whether an entity or a freelancer or person, permanent residents of eligible countries. And here we have two categories of eligible countries: the EU member states and its overseas countries and territories. The whole list is here. Also in the application form, the drop-down only includes the eligible countries. So chances are, if your country is not in the drop-down list in the application form, you are not eligible. The second category of eligible countries are those associated to Horizon Europe. And here we have another wide range from Norway, Iceland, Serbia, Turkey, Israel, and so on. It's very important that you know exactly your type of residency if you're not one of the nationals of these eligible countries. It has to be a permanent residency. It cannot be a work residency or a study residency. It has to be a permanent residency in one of these eligible countries. Regarding other eligibility criteria for the application form, Leah, in the next slide, it is very important that, thank you, that the entire proposal is submitted in English. You fill in all the mandatory sections. Please see on the project, on the application website. Actually, Magdalena will share the link in the chat with you. In the application website, you will see a video recording of the application form and the steps that you have to go through in order to fill it in correctly. We are also looking at the absence of a conflict of interest. That is, the artists that are applying this open call do not have any type of relationship with any of the consortium partners that are involved in the process. And by relationship, we don't mean that you know each other and you have talked before and stuff like that. It has to be a sort of commercial or other type of relationship that engages a sort of purpose in your previous collaboration. So it is important you submit your application before the deadline on the 20th of September. There is still a lot of time, and you are going to receive a confirmation of the correct submission of the application if you have done it. So first, the first sign that it was correctly submitted, it should come on the application form itself. And then, as you'll see in the following slide, you will also be receiving instantly an email from Funding Box saying that you have received we have received your application correctly. In case you do not see these confirmations or you do not get the email, maybe it's in spam or whatever, just email us as soon as possible. Make sure it's not a few minutes after the deadline, but rather a few hours before the deadline. You can always save the draft application and fill in the fields at your convenience, but do make sure you push the submit button when all the fields are filled in correctly. Going further into the other specificities of this open call, the timeline and the evaluation criteria. So this phase of the open call for the artist includes actually two stages. We are here after having selected the 10 SMEs. So the 10 SMEs together with the artists are going to form teams. But at this level, at this stage, we are just looking for the individual applications from the artists, where we get to know the artists a bit more and get an understanding of their previous work and their intention and their commitment to this support program. So this is the last of the 2 webinars that we have organized for the artists, and you'll find the recordings on the website. And after this, we are going to hear from the SMEs that we have selected. We have having some presentations from them. And after this, Leah actually will be telling you a bit more about the HEC-Lab matchmaking after submitting this initial application, where we are looking to see your eligibility and your in scope with the project objectives. Furthermore, those applications that have been considered in scope and eligible from the individual artists that we are collecting right now before the 20th of September are going to be invited to submit a full proposal. And that implies a new application process, which will be a bit more elaborated and focused on the challenges of the SMEs. Nevertheless, in the guide for the applicants right now that you have available on the application website, you will see what those challenges are, those that Rodolfo briefly introduced as well. So you can get an idea, a more in-depth idea about the type of collaborative work you are expected to perform. And you can wrap your entire concept around one or 2 of these challenges of the SMEs. But this will be in a later stage, as I said, of the application, and only to those artists that have passed the in-scope eligible admission stage. So for the selection process right now, once the deadline, once we have surpassed the deadline for this stage of the application after the 20th of September, we are going to check those applications against these 2 criteria: the eligibility that I mentioned. You remember residency or type of registered entity in one of the European countries, and the in-out scope screening. And for these 2 phases of the evaluation, what we are, next slide please, what you are expected to pay attention to is in the admissibility and eligibility stage in the application form. Just make sure you introduce all the details regarding your entity, whether you are a freelancer or a registered studio. And then for the scope, we are looking at those details that you provide that enable us to identify your connection to the agri-food value chain, that the prototype, the previous work you referred to, has at least TRL4. There is a personalized profile card created on the HEC-Lab. Leah will explain you how to do that. And there is a clear motivation to collaborate with the end user and project partners. In the in-out of scope eligibility stage, we are also looking at the European dimension, because this is an European funded project, and the European dimension usually refers to those projects that have the potential to spill over other types of to provide spillovers to other type of entities, and to be an example for other types of projects. So in your application form, eligibility criteria, you fill in basic information, general entity information, the declaration of honor, and processing of personal data. The 2 declaration of honor, processing personal data, is just ticking boxes, so this will take you no time to do. Just make sure you do it and you have it done. Basic information, general entity information, again, it's mostly you filling in the details of your entities and selecting from drop-down lists. However, when it comes to the in and out of scope selection criteria, we are looking for more information from you. And this is in these 3 fields: related experience of the artist, motivation, and commitment to the Hungry EcoCities. As you can see here, once you have all these green ticks, that means that all fields have been completed. You have filled in all the fields of the application form. However, you do need to press on the submit button. For the in-out scope screening, as you will see in this next slide, you have to make sure that you upload your CV or portfolio, you create your user account at the HEC-Lab, and you provide proof of that. You upload a print screen of your profile on the Hack Lab. So it's not just the registration, you also have to create your profile and you provide proof of that as well. And you upload your previous experience, your previous work, your prototypes. You can upload, I believe, up to 2, but Leah can give you more details. So you need to provide the link to your dashboard as well, to your profile as well, to the prototypes that you have created in Hack Lab. These are eligibility criteria, okay? So it is important that you fill in all those details, and that would ensure you higher chances to move on to the second phase of the application, where you would actually create a proposal around the SMEs challenges with the support of everyone here and other colleagues that are not present today. So we are asking some things of you, but we are also offering something, of course. So in addition to the funding, which is up to 37,500 euros, and this consists of 1,500 euros for preparation for the jury day. So 20 pre-selected artists after the full proposal stage will participate in the jury day. And this means that we are giving a grant, we are paying a grant to all those 20, even if we are going to eventually select only 10, but all 20 who are going to be involved in this stage of preparing for the jury day are going to get this 1,500 euros as a grant for their time and effort to prepare and their commitment to go to the further stages of the project. In addition to that, Monica already explained a lot about the installations, the studios, Cry in particular, but all the other studios are enabling access to the artist. There is going to be some traveling, and for this part of the application, you do not need to estimate a budget. This will come later on in the second stage. However, you do need to go through the guide and see the indicative dates that we estimate there for the traveling for those 10 selected artists. And that is an important aspect to be considered when it comes to your commitment and availability for the support program. In addition to all this, you would also get access to the project tools to experiment with the digital technology and test in prototype parks. And you have the support. They are not here, but we have 3 partners, as presented at the beginning. We have 3 partners from universities, and these are leading universities in science and technology, and they are also going to support the team of SME and artists throughout the 8-month support program. I think from this point on, Leah, you can present a bit more about the matchmaking and the Hack Lab. I'll go to the questions. We'll go to the questions at the end of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anka, for taking us through the eligibility. If in the meantime you have questions, please already drop them in the chat. It's quite an extensive eligibility, but we try to explain it to you to make it as concrete as possible and to help you see directly if you fit. Our application process, we designed it in such a way that we don't want to put a lot of burden up front of you. So this first phase, it doesn't require too much of time. We go much more in depth with those 20 pre-selected who will also get a mini grant to be supported in that. But of course, in this stage, we do want to know your motivation and see if there is a fit. And this matching is going to go through the Hack Lab. So with the application until the 20th of September, at noon, we're asking you to apply with your motivation for the general program and with the experience you already have with the prototype cars. We do that through the Hack Lab. That is a beta platform that we have created within Hungry EcoCities, especially for this purpose, but also to bring developers of different projects together with opportunities from the SMEs. So if you start to apply, you first have to register. This is the register environment. Do save your passport, because you're gonna need it in the second stage for the matchmaking. Then if you are entering the register profile, select the Hack OC2 applicant, because that's the type of applicant you are within the Hack Lab. you're not an SME, which is another option, they are going to create opportunity cards in this system. You are going to create a prototype card. And here you can add some information you already have. We don't ask you to create anything new, just paste and copy what is already available in that space. Then this is the most important element of the Hack Lab. That's the Hack Lab prototype proposal card. There we have some questions, and the moment you have registered, you will also get access to a dashboard with a manual. And in that manual, you have a step-by-step explanation what exactly each of these different questions in the bars mean and what you should fill into that. Then in the end, there is this confirm. You have to put on the confirm button when you have entered everything, so that the project card is saved. To give you an idea how it would look like, from the first round we had with Hungry EcoCities, we have 9 different prototype cards, and they are available on the Hack Lab. So you could have a look a bit to get some reference, some inspiration, but also if you are unsure about certain aspects, you could navigate through that. Then why are we doing that? We're doing that for the matchmaking. Rodolfo introduced to you the 10 different SMEs, the scope, what type of field they're working in within the agri-food system. And based on your prototypes, there's going to be matches. And in your personalized dashboard, you are gonna see if you fit our eligible and in scope screening, with which SMEs you are potentially matched. It might be that there will be 1 or 2 or 3 SMEs that pop up in your dashboard. These are open to you to apply for and to look at whether you find it's of interest and fitting with what you propose or what the prototype is and what you would like to do or not. If you are interested in applying to them, you can request a match, and that's when the second phase of this open call starts, and you have to create a motivation letter why you apply for this specific SME. To also help you understand better this SME, there will be some webinars with the specific SMEs. At this stage, we did not disclose yet who these SMEs are. Of course, before you apply in full, you're gonna know who these SMEs are and where they are located. And they're gonna give a presentation to you about their company, the people you're gonna work with, about the test site that's there, and there's a possibility also for some Q&A. It's a tight schedule in that sense that the final proposal is in the end of October, the 28th of October, and we want to give you enough time to think about the fit. So that's why within the week of October 4th to October 11th, there will be announced to you based on the SMEs you linked with when your specific session will be there. We understand that on these short notice, you might not be able to attend that session. That's why there is a possibility to send in questions up front so we can ask them on your behalf in that session, and you could also watch it later on because these sessions will be recorded and you can refer to them. You will not have any direct contact with the SMEs outside of this, but of course, if there are some questions, we as Hungry EcoCities team are there to support you and help you to fill in the full proposal. I think that's it based on the matchmaking. So the in and out scope and eligibility scoping will start directly after the 20th. And that means that before October 1st, you'll get a notice of us whether you are passing to this next phase, and you can see in your dashboard with which SMEs you are matched. That is the information we wanted to share with you. Based on this presentation and the previous presentation and the slides, we tackled all the important elements for you to apply to this open call. Of course, there's also an extended guide for applicants and a frequently asked question available. You can use that to quickly find the questions you have, and we also have a specialized email address you can send emails to get additional help, and a help desk. With that, I want to close the presentation from us, and I want to open the floor for questions. You can ask them in the chat, or if you want to speak out, you can let us know and we can give you the floor to start speaking. There is one question in the chat related to the NACE code and already a reference to where you can find it in the guide for applicants, but perhaps Anka, you can shortly explain what we actually mean with that.
Yes, of course. So Dimitri, I'm not sure I'm saying your name correctly. I apologize for that. So in addition to what my colleague already told you, that you can find the information, this NACE code is artistic creation, and it's a very general definition of artistic creation. What we are trying to identify here is that whether you are a studio, you'd have to comply with this NACE code and be registered under this one. And in your country, it should be under another number, but it may have a correspondent with this European NACE code. If you are a freelancer, you are probably registered under a variety of other codes. As long as they fall under artistic creation, we will consider you as an eligible applicant.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabrielle, also for your question. Indeed, the HackLab card in this stage is a very important one, because that will enable us to bring you to the next phase and screen on the eligibility criteria. Having said that, I really urge all of you who are interested to already create an account on the Funding Box application environment for Hungry EcoCities. And on the HackLab, so that you can get familiarized and that there is time, if there is some questions, you can always address to us. On this application form, remember that the application goes through the Funding Box application form and you have to confirm it. You can always go back to it. So sometimes we even say, like, if you're not completely finished, do submit it already, and then mark in your agenda the 19th of September to do the final tweaking and elements. But then at least it's in the system as an application that is submitted, and you can always put in the final elements if you want to fine tune. We are stressing this because from experience, we know that sometimes it's forgotten or something happens on the day of the deadline and you're too late, and we cannot accept any applications that come in after 1 o'clock on September the 20th. Thank you all for joining us. We hope that we could give you an insight in Hungry EcoCities, that we could get you motivated to work with us, with our SMEs. And we're really looking forward to your motivations and to your prototypes. We're here to support you. And if there's anything, we're still here to address questions. But if everything is clear for you, please feel free to drop out, and wishing you a very pleasant day.
Hungry EcoCities, a S+T+ARTS Residencies project. Find more information about the project at starts.eu/hungryecocities.